Hi, and welcome to the Holistic Hub with Marie and Martine, a welcoming, nurturing, and soul supporting environment of all things spiritual, energy, and alternative. Our intention is to freely and lovingly share the personal truths, stories, and wisdoms we've gained, hopefully offering any guidance, new perspective, or light bulb moment that you may wish to take away to assist you through the navigation of your journey out of 3D through 4D and toward 5D and beyond.
Hey everyone, how are you going? And welcome to the Holistic Hub.
Hi.
With Brett and Martine Robertson. And today's topic we're going to be sharing with you today is around energy. So please feel free to comment wherever we have posted this to you about your experience with energy or anything that you would like to share, and likewise with any extra questions that you may have at the end of this. Anything you'd like to kick off with, Marie?
No, I know that you've got a lovely introduction or a nice little story to take us into today, and then we'll start off a bit light so we don't hit you too hard, but eventually bring you into what the true energy is and how you can utilize that in your world. I feel because we were discussing just prior, it's such a huge topic that we can't give you every answer about energy and how to incorporate that. So we might just sort of tread light, work our way through, and as we said, there might be part 2, part 3 to this, or just answering questions, or just see how we go, really. But it's the basis of everything.
And that's it. I think everyone comes into their own story around their understanding, like their true heart center understanding of energy in their own way. Like we all come into everything in our own way. And I knew as a child that I experienced things that maybe other people didn't, or they did but they didn't share. And like, for instance, I just knew, like, from growing up, my mum would always say, "Oh, Martine, you're so sensitive. You're so sensitive." But I knew just by going into any room, often the energy of that room, and when I say the energy, I would get a sensation in my body, and whether that sensation was a positive one, or it made me feel sad, or it made me feel a certain particular emotion, that was how I could feel by moving into a room. And that was extending into places. And it was something that as a child, there was sort of no one around me to guide me on what that was. So it was me, it was like the blind leading the blind. And I was having to build like what I would now call coping mechanisms to get me through the different energies. But also, as a child, you don't often have the right to go, I don't really want to go there. It doesn't make me feel very good. Or, you don't have the opportunity to sort of say no or yes to any particular energy situations. And likewise, growing up with, my mum had quite a lot of mental illness, and I would be able to read the room, so to speak. So if I was coming home from school, I can literally picture the door that I would enter into, and I would be treading with caution to be reading the energy of the room to know where she was at, what kind of state I was going to be finding her in. And this has been the foundation of my, growth into where I sit before you today relative to energy, and it keeps expanding consistently. Like what I feel like I knew last week is even more than what I've ever known, and it continues to grow and expand, and I continue to see truths. And I'm appreciative for my experience, my first experiences of energy and what they've taught me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yours is very, very different to my initial experiences, because, we've got nearly a 20-year gap between us in age. So that alludes in itself to such a different aspect of how the world was and how people reviewed energy, or it wasn't even a conscious topic in my youth. But as a kid, like if we're talking from a child perspective, in truth, my childhood was just a shut down door. There's just not memories. There's no There was no aspect for until my 30s, 40s about what that child was or what she did. But in hindsight now, listening to your story, I know that I too was probably very psychic as a child, very open, and I was squashed, absolutely shut down, doors slammed, from fear, from, I think, women around me who were very intuitive also, or could be very powerful, but the fear was profound. So it wasn't until my older years of me understanding what energy was. And I was blessed to have an aunt who was, I think, about 18 years ago. But she came in very open, very clear, very willing, and doing her journey. And she was guiding me and saying to me, you know, come on, it's time, wake up. And I was like, no, no, run away, no, I don't want to know anything about it. And it wasn't until 1994 for me that, you know, while my constant resistance to my greater energy being took over as it will when you don't have any say about it. And that's when my big wake up and understanding took place. Though truthfully, actually, I forgot when I did wake up was probably 86. That was my first wake up, which now we know is what was called the harmonic convergence time that year. And in that same month, or almost probably close to the day in truth. But that's the first time I started seeing auras. And so mine was a very visual, more than the feeling at that stage, but was very, very visual about what I could see. And again, where I slammed that shut from fear and resistance of, you know, that deep program within me going, don't remember this and don't go to this. But, you know, we have a blueprint, we have a contract, and we are meant to wake up when it's time. And that was just taken out of my hands in, as I said, in 1994. Where I literally was crashed and burned and broken apart and literally fell apart, and all those things we try to prevent and control, but it just had to happen, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then understanding energy from that perspective, the greatest gift I received in doing groups, learning about things, reading about things as we do. But not till 1999 when I was still working in nursing. And that was the first time when I had a male boss who was my nemesis at the time. And he came charging at me to just rip me apart one day. I was setting up a cardiac unit. And I saw him coming, and I knew about this gift, if you haven't heard of it already, this gift called the violet flame. And as he was coming down, the violet flame is a metaphysical tool that you can use to transmute and transform negative or low frequency energy into a higher positive frequency energy instantly. And that's energy. It's instant when you believe it. And so the gift that I got and the greater teaching I got that day was when he was charging at me. And I remember thinking, your thoughts, your biggest energy port, oh God, here we go again. And I was conscious then I was devolving my energy and aligning to that fear, and went, can't do this. No, rise, step up, and just went violet flame now, whatever that was, reached a critical mass point. And then I just saw that violet flame in physical, in magnificent color and form all around me in a huge circle. That then what I experienced with that, because the violet instantly raised my frequency. He's still down there, I'm up here. Energies don't communicate if you're not on the same vibration. He yelled and danced and screamed and carried on, and there were words coming out his mouth. And to this day, I didn't hear a thing. Not a thing touched me. I was just in this dumb, muted state of like, oh my God, this is real. I'm seeing energy. I'm seeing the outpouring of this. I'm seeing the power of this. Then he turned on his heels and he took off. And then the energy of the violet dissipated. And there was no one in my circle of violet. The girls that I worked with were on the outer side, which was again perfect. And from that day on, that was when I dived into the understanding of energy, what it is, the power of it, what we have and the ability to utilize to make better in our being and our greater world and our grander etheric self. And my journey of passion for energy has never stopped, and it keeps evolving. As you said, it just keeps growing and growing, and it's an infinite journey. as you choose to take it as far and as wide in your remembering. So that's my quick story. Not so quick.
Well, again, it just keeps evolving, doesn't it? It's like, you know, your story then reminds me of how then I really understood it or really chose it. Like, as you said, you chose to dive into that. Like you have these pivotal times in your time frame, that timeline that you have made these choices, and they've all had come at different points in time as well. Like, you know, I remember choosing energy because to not have energy in my life was like there was no peace, there was no love, there was no comfort when there wasn't me discovering more about energy. And you know, I've discovered it through many spiritual forums as well. Like I've dabbled in so many different spiritual forums from you know, just trying to understand what that is, and you know, from various different books, various different religions, and I've never taken any one way. It's always been something that I've taken on and then discerned what felt right for me, and then evolved it from there. And like different ways in which it came to me as well. Like, you know, when my mum passed, she passed via suicide, and for it wasn't straight away, it was maybe a year later that I had recognized that you know, a lot of spirits that were in the momentum of crossing over at that point in time were starting to find me. And it was only through my understanding of energy at the time that I even tuned into that happening in the first place. And that went on, I think, for a solid year, where I took that on, and through my understanding of energy and what I was being continuously shown, I was then taught how to speak to these spirits, allow them the opportunity to cross over, to create a crossing over platform. And then I remember even to the day where there were just so many of them following me home that I remember going, I don't know if I want this anymore. And then something spoke to me and said, well, you know, you can make a choice. And I went, what? And then from that moment on, I went, okay, well, I don't choose this anymore. I'm, you know, I don't want to be this vessel. And I've got so many countless stories of learning energy through this way. Like, this is the way I learn energy. I learn energy through tangible experience of what I'm exposed to at the time.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. You know, and I think that, you know, we know certainly over the years, and as people are starting to wake up, you know, your head is the part of you that's engaged in the excitement and the wanting to know, and we go searching and looking for groups and books and whatever, whoever, and give our power away a lot of the time. We don't realize at the time, to gurus or to people that we think know everything. But, you know, the beauty of this journey is, and for anyone that's just starting that might catch us here, you know, there's no wrong or right way with the journey. There's no wrong or right way with understanding energy. You know, you'll never miss out on anything. And, you know, from what Martine said, and certainly in my journey, even as much as you might resist and say no, or, you know, or you might try and find it, everything comes to you at the divine time. But everything that comes to you is of an emanation from energy. And while we're having a physical experience, you know, and this might all sound great, and some people might say, but I don't get that, or I don't hear that, or I don't see. And not everybody does. We're all unique and amazing. You know, even if you just have a feeling, even if you just have a flash of a thought, even if you just don't even realize that all of a sudden, I've just got to go here. You know, you're actually listening to a part of your energy. But most people don't recognize it, because I know there's such an ego aspect, or, you know, an early journey aspect, where we think that, you know, we're going to be given these grand things, or we're going to be seeing great things, or it's going to be this, you know, amazing, oh, that's what it's going to be like. Or we hear other people's stories. But, you know, you're with energy and spirits activating you all the time, and we don't even realize it. It might be you pick up a rock at the beach, or the feather falls before you, or you're just sitting in the rain and you're just in peace and joy. this is you engaging your amazing energetic self and feeling if whatever's giving you love and joy and a sense of peace and happiness, you're already engaged in your energy field of greatness. But again, we haven't realized that because we haven't been taught about that yet. And I think that's really important to remember, to not get ahead of yourself, because it's a real trap on the spiritual path, where people think they've got to do this and get that and see that and do that, and then they get into their old program of, oh well, I can't do that, see, that's not going to happen to me, and oh, it's all the negative, which is again the balance we're here to discern. But it's just finding the little things. Just start by finding little things that are positive in your world, and then even just understanding that the greatest form of energy that you are your thoughts, because that's all you are. There is nothing in truth. When I say truth, I'm coming from the God-centered truth, love truth, that there is nothing by your thoughts. You are everything in your world, and you create everything in your world through this. And that's where I loved energy, and I still love it, in understanding day by day how amazing I am, we all are, and how incredible we play this game, giving ourselves the opportunity of expanding and remembering how great we really are. Yeah, we tend, and we've been programmed and trained not to think like that, but to keep it contained and limited, which is the old program we're now breaking free of. It's a very powerful program, but just the simple dynamics of energy we might go into in a minute. I'll let Martine talk for a sec. Is the basis of your great change, and the basis for everything that you truly want in your world. This is where it stems from. And once you get a handle on it, and it's not hard. If I can do it, anybody can.
That's right. And that's the take home with everything that we talk about, which is, if it is hard, then you're still an ego.
Yeah.
So how do you bring it into simplicity again? So for me, when I've been reprogramming my own belief structures or my own coping mechanisms, what I call in my life, where I've taken on another person's adaptation of an energy as my own, and then therefore I don't feel like my clear energy vessel, to break those conditionings, I simply reprogram what that feels like to me. So I remember someone saying to me about 10 years ago, we were standing on the beach, and he said to me, every time that we're in the water, Martine, all I see is a massive grin on your face. And I looked to him and I thought, yeah, that's probably true. Like, there are a lot of things in life that I find joyous, but nothing more than when I'm completely having to be present in the moment, like when you're on a wave surfing. You can't be anywhere else because there are so many things that you're doing to concentrate on what you're doing, as well as the energy alone of being on a wave. Like, you're literally being pushed with momentum of a beautiful source of energy. You can't help but be in that absolute moment. And organically, there was my smile, and it really hit home as a reflection, not only on my journey with surfing, because I grew up in an area where initially as a child I wasn't that close to the ocean, and then as I was close to the ocean, it wasn't something that I felt comfortable going in. I felt too shy as a girl to go into the surf because we were bullied a lot. And so surfing was something that I started as an adult. And so going into the ocean, it keeps me in the moment, similar to how if I just sit in the sun, it will change my thought processes immediately. So, it becomes a place in which I can find what I like to call my higher light values of life. And they're very simple tools for me to feel at peace or feel in my highest light, so that then I'm stepping further away from the energy of my ego and further into my heart. And for me, that's my ultimate goal of life. It's the ultimate goal of energy, and everything else that happens in extension of that. So say you're holding crystals. Often when I'm holding crystals, and meditating, I will feel the energy of those crystals as if I don't know if you remember that tire guy, the Michelin Man, you know, like where he's coated in these bubbles, and I literally can feel it all the way through me, like I'm coated out into this huge frequency, because these two crystals or whatever I'm holding in my hands or over my heart, their energy is now becoming part of my energy. You know, that's an extreme example of how I can feel energy. The most simplest way that I can do it is my foot right now is having the sunlight beam onto it, and it literally just soars a sense of knowing into my body. At that, it just puts me in a place of what I like to call higher light.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what I was feeling and thinking as you were speaking, you know, before you touched on it, was the simplest source of energy we all know is the sun. You know, to understand, again, don't get caught up too much about what energy is. You can dive as deep as you want or keep it as shallow as you like. But again, as you're chatting, I'm hearing you know, my higher self sort of say to me, let's talk about this. So I will. Is that, you know, again, when you're starting off and you aren't, you know, thinking about, you know, well, how do I tap energy? How do I know what energy is? Like, that's a great term, but I don't understand it. You know, I'll sort of take it right back to the generics of what it is. So, you know, we are all energy first. And this is an Ooga Booga, as my husband would say. This is science, in that you can go to any science textbook, and anything that's living and breathing is energy. That's it, full stop. So that means we are energy as well. And the moment we arrive and we're born as a baby, we're here, we're living, we're breathing. So we're an energetic being. To simplify understanding energy, or to begin to know what that is to really get the energy aspect, and how you will tap the energy aspect is only through the way of feeling. Feeling is the avenue to understanding energy. You can get all the thoughts and all the knowledge and all the book work and everything through the head, but you don't think the energy as such, except for the thoughts. And again, most of the time you're not aware of all the thoughts you're thinking. They're unknown thoughts that are actually running your world. You're only aware of the conscious ones, that you still might not be aware of how they're running your world. But through the feeling body is the beginning of where we understand energy. And that's apparent from the child, because the child, and we were all children, we're no different, and we all have this same capacity, but we just were trained in different timelines and different parenting and societal, religious, and all those educational systems as to when we shut down the truth of our feeling body. So kids, when they're little, they don't think, they don't have rational cognition, they don't go through justifications and rationalizations, and they don't think, oh, well, you're good, he's not good at this low level, let's say under 5. It's just not there, because they don't do that. That's not part of their developed skill. So how does this child discern the energies around them, which they do, is through their feeling body. And so there's no greater example than our children teaching us what energy is, because, like, you know, I remember at my age, probably you too, you know, our old programs were with family, go and kiss Uncle Johnny, or you've got to go here, or you've got to give someone a hug, or you've got to do this because that's the right thing to do. And as kids, I'm sure we've all got an example, if not just with us, but seeing other kids around us, where if a child doesn't resonate and doesn't feel that it's okay, they're feeling the energy of somebody, they're feeling the energy of a vibration of an area, a person, whatever it is at the time, and they will arc, they will retreat away from the energy that doesn't feel right to them. And so as an unconscious adult, we go pushing them through. Just do that. Just walk through it. You'll be fine. You'll be right. Don't do that. Don't embarrass me. Don't do this. How will they think? What will that person say? These are all ego-based agendas, as we know. But that child is such a great teacher if we're willing to look. And they will also tell us, I don't want to go there. I don't like that over there. Why not? It doesn't feel right. They don't say, oh, it's because of him, this, he's that, oh, her, she, whatever. They're not giving you the justifications. They will just say, I don't like it. I don't feel it. I don't want to go over there. And as a conscious adult, parent, aunt, friend, whoever, again, as I said, the minute we're conscious, we can look from these children and understand that concept of energy, because that's the feeling aspect that I'm alerting to, because that's what it's all about. And it's the same for us. We as adults, at some level and at some time, were told to shut that down. And we were taught, no, that's not right. That's not the truth. We want you to think now. And this is where the imbalance came. And what we're actually doing now with the Great Awakening, and what we're all doing as we're now becoming our true great self, is we're reversing the play, and we have to come back into the feeling and start to trust that again, because we've got this going, no, don't trust it. And our heart's saying, yeah, come on, you know this. And so this is what we're doing. But I think that's a really important thing, because a lot of you probably have felt things. You probably get that in a little way, or you can see where your head is blocking those potential feelings, or trusting intuition moments, or gut feelings, or whatever word you want to give it. But this is precisely where the higher energy wants you to come back to, into that learning to feel again. Trust what your internal radar, your internal guidance system is trying to bring your attention toward. That will only ever take you in the most positive and heart-loving direction.
And with that being said, it's not to, this is not to make you feel guilty as you start to hear within your own being all the stories of how you've perhaps done this, or if you've got children where you've put them into a circumstance where you're now like, oh, I made them do gymnastics for a whole year when they didn't want to. It's like, remember that these stories that you're hearing in your head, that you have had those experiences, are there just for the teachings. They're there for you to now perhaps reflect on and go, oh, okay, well, that's where we're at. And how do we listen to that moving forward? And, if anyone listening has had a child, they also know that teaching this to a child is something like, to listen to their own voice as well, is something that needs to happen. Like, as they start to ask questions about it, as they start to ask questions as to why society operate a certain way, or why they need to do something a certain way, it creates a beautiful opportunity for you to go, don't know that right now. Can you let me sit with how I'm going to answer that? Or maybe, starting the conversation a little bit more with a simple response. I've had lots of curly questions over the years as to how that and why that looks a certain way. And, as your child evolves and grows as well, you get to understand their own inner workings through their own gut instincts, and you trust those a lot more as you see them in action as well. I explicitly trust my daughters, but it doesn't mean I'm there to shield her from every circumstance. I'm there to teach her. She literally said to me the other day, I said, oh, have you violet flamed? And one of her teachers, and we have lots of conversations about this, and she started utilizing the violet flame in the classroom, and it's been really beautiful, because she's then talking to Isla about it even more. And I haven't heard Isla, like, I've always said to Isla about the violet flame, but she has sometimes rolled her eyes at me, or she said, yes, I've done that, or she has said, it's not going to help, or in those moments where she's in her little going through something, there's been resistance there. And in the last couple of weeks, I've seen a real shift with her with the violet flame, because I feel like her teacher is mentioning it a lot more. And she even told me about her teacher's first initiation into mentioning it to Isla, which went a little something like this. Isla was experiencing something interesting at school, and the teacher had asked her to, has she heard of the violet flame? Does she use the violet flame? And Isla replied, yes, Mum mentions it all the time. Yeah, like every 15 minutes sometimes. And it was from that conversation that she actually started using it. And the last time I saw her using it was on Friday afternoon, and I said, have you violet flamed? And she's like, yes, I actually have. And I was like, oh, that's the first time that I've said that, and that you've actually responded with, yes, I have. Like, I didn't say that out loud, but in my mind I'm like, oh, we've gotten there with the violet flame.
Oh, I'm so proud.
And the same when she approached me about the sage, she said, oh, Mom, I think I need a sage, you know, and it's taken a while for us to get to that because, you know, she can get really overwhelmed by, she is really sensitive. She gets very overwhelmed by energies. She doesn't quite know how to articulate that. And it's only just, that is evolving for her. So it's a really beautiful thing to watch, but not something for me to resolve within her. It's like I mention things, I let her digest them, and then she still has free will to do with them what she desires.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, as parents, it's tricky because, you know, there are parts of us that, you know, do our thing, or we've been trained how well we've ever been trained. And, you know I've heard my mother coming through me at times, and that's less and less. But certainly in the old days, I mean, my oldest is nearly 28 and 25 and down to 17. So there's a lot of old baggage with the first two. But it was an interesting journey to see that and to wake up to that, where in my awakening journey, where I was just maintaining old energetic patterns and old thought patterns that you just programmed and you run. You don't even realize they're just on default all the time. The cassette just keeps moving and turning, and you're just doing what you're taught. And so when you become conscious, though, with our kids, we can just take that step back and, again, not only just let them teach us, which is again a reversal to the whole thinking that adults think we're here to run the kids. But we're not. These kids have such incredible wisdom when they're still tapped and tuned to the highest energy aspects, which is what we all were when we came into this incarnation. Until those programs start to bleed into their world, they've got incredible wisdom and incredible gifts that we can learn from them, if we're willing. But it's about the journey. It's about, you know, and again, as Martine said, don't bag yourself. You know, this is what we've got to stop: the judgment of the self, or thinking we did wrong. We've got to, you know, we've hurt them, we've wounded them, we've put all this crap in them. No, we've got to stop that too, because that's a choice in thought, and that's not the truth. Because these beautiful kids have chosen us as we've chosen them, and we've chosen everything that we walk through together for the greater teaching for both and all involved. So it's that journey of how to step out of the old patterns of limitation, judgment, shame, guilt, fear, all those negative vibrations that don't serve anybody and they don't create joyous outcomes, and learning to tap how we can shift this to shift that. And that's ultimately the aim. And again, you know, this is, as we said in the beginning, this is a vast topic of how to do that. And we're not going to give you all the answers in this session. But this was a bit of an introduction to how we see energy, how we use energy. And there's certainly way more that we'll be adding to this as well throughout sessions. And again, we'd love to answer your questions, because that makes it a lot easier as well for us. But yeah, I think that's probably a good starting point, because it is such a vast topic, don't you think? Or
I do. I've got a little exercise if you're keen. Yeah, it's like, have you heard of like if the energy balls?
Oh yes, I love energy balls.
Energy ball.
I've got a story about an energy ball, but you go first.
Would you like to share your story first about your energy ball?
Sure. Well, my energy ball is one where I used it with power, and it's a blue ball. And this is again where I've been teaching. I was teaching my eldest first when I was waking up and I was starting to understand about this and the power we hold, and making it positive, not my old pattern of negative. Was one day it's just before we moved initially to Coffs Harbour. So this was back in 2004. And she would have been 8, I think, at the time. Yeah, maybe, yeah, probably 8. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And this particular day I was sending her, my husband had already left. He was up in Coffs doing his job, and we hadn't seen him for weeks. And there was all this stuff I was finishing the house with. So I had all these things for her for school, and there was something I needed her to school. Anyway, I just said, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? You know, in my very old nursing do way. And she just looked at me with this face and she said, I can't do that. And I said, what? And she said, I just can't do that. And I remember hearing that, and I thought, oh, what am I doing? So I said, that's okay. And then I said, are you able to do this? And whatever this was. And then for some reason, she just got really, really angry. And she started just letting the anger rip at me. And I was quite open to feeling, I know where she's at, I can hear that, whatever. But then there was a part of it after I'd explained myself and I said exactly those words, I hear you, I get it. And then there was a part that came out of her that just wasn't part of that conversation, and it was just general anger, and she just had to vent. And it wasn't my stuff, to be honest, it was just stuff she was letting go of. And I remember saying to her, I hear you, but a lot of what you just said isn't my energy, it's not my stuff. And this is truly what I said. So I said, I've got this blue ball here, and I said, this is all your true power. And I said, I want you now, you've just thrown it at me, I'm going to hand it back to you now. And I want you to just own what's yours and get rid of it. And they knew the violet flame too. Just get rid of in the violet what you want to get rid of. But hold your true power and own it and be responsible, that I don't have to have all you yelling at me all the time, you know, and I'm not yelling at you, whatever. And she said, I don't want my power. And she said, here. And she threw the blue ball back at me. And I just said, no, this is yours. This is your energy. And I just want you to look after it and do something with it. And we had this game of this blue ball going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And I threw it back to her the last time. And she went, oh, and she stormed on her heels and she went off to the bedroom. And I cut my ties, as we did. It doesn't matter if they're kids, whoever. Cut my ties, handed the energy back, owned my stuff, handed her stuff back, even at 8. Anyway, she obviously thought about it. It was time. She was ready. Then she came back to me afterwards and she said, I'm sorry, Mum, and I've kept my blue ball. And she said, I heard what you said, and I apologise for the nasty things that I said. And I said, that's okay. I said, I love you. And I said, but that's good. You're owning what's yours and what's not okay to dump on somebody else. So I thank you for that. And you keep your blue power because you need it, and hold that ball really tight to your chest and your heart. She said, I will. And I'm in my violet bubble too. I said, well, good for you. Off you go. And off she went to school. So that was my little story, but I've never forgotten it. And I've used that blue ball with all my kids and lots of kids that I've dealt with because they're very visual and they get energy quick.
Mm.
So what's yours?
Well, let's maybe just go in and do it, shall we? So again, if you're listening to this in heavy machinery, stop, pause, come back to it. Okay, well, let's all get in a comfortable position. And I like to close my eyes, but you don't have to if you don't desire to. It just helps me go within a little easier and to find my center. So like all my meditations, I love to begin by centering myself with white light all around me. So I like to bring it in through the crown and allow it to wash through me like you imagine water running down a river and washing away any low vibrations, any tightness or tension in the body. So let's begin by bringing it down into the crown chakra at the top of the head, moving it down through the head and allowing that white light to clear and cleanse. I like to just visualize them as darker colors and transmuting them into a light energy. See it washing down your neck and your shoulders, a place that we do hold a lot of tightness and tension. And continue to allow that white light to move down your arms, into your torso, into all the organs within your torso. You might begin to feel and see your breath begin to slow and be a bit deeper as you allow this calming light in. And continue to bring this white light down through the back of the buttock, the thighs, the knees, the calves, the shins. And then feel and see it move out through the soles of the feet. And I like to bring up the earth energy as well. So I imagine that light now turning into roots, like roots of a tree. And as those roots plant, they begin to bring up the beautiful earth energy. and ground us with that white light. So see and feel that blue, that lovely earth energy moving up through the soles of the feet now. Up the legs, into the torso, up the arms, the neck, and again out through the crown. And then imagine these two energies moving out through your auric field. So a couple of centimeters off our auric field, we have our etheric field, our emotional body. There's a few centimeters beyond that. A few more centimeters beyond that is the mental sphere, and then the spiritual sphere. And just see those energies moving beyond you now, so that you are now in that energy field, in that energy bubble. And then opening your palms, both your palms, up to the universe. What I'd like you to visualize is like a beach ball or a cylindrical ball of some description, and see it land into those facing up palms. Now, I'd like you to begin to move those palms so that you can feel the parameters of that ball within your palms, so that you're beginning to feel how when you push slightly in, you can feel the energy resistance into your palms, and that you can make out a clear shape of that sphere. And then visualizing and trusting here a color. Just trust the color that automatically comes into you. Don't second guess it. And feel and see that ball now become that color. And you can also infiltrate it with a vibration of a word, like love or peace or joy. Again, trusting any words that come to you. And if you don't have any words, that's fine too. Just keep it at the color. And then in a moment, you're going to have something flash in very clearly. And that is where this ball is going to go. Now, does it need to go to you? Does it need to go to someone around you? Does it need to go to a place? Does it need to go to any particular area of our planet? Any living organism? Again, trust. And either place that sphere now in a part of you that resonates, so your heart center or your throat or wherever it's feeling like it needs to go, or see now that ball take off into flight and head to the person who needs that frequency of light. See it land in that person, that place, wherever you've sent it. See it be received in love and light. And then come back to me and open your eyes. That's my little ball of light that I often will do. So I just sent that one to my daughter. But it'll be something that, you know, is another quick way. It's a quick light, ray of light as well, you know, to transmute anything. So say you've been feeling like a sore throat or something happening in your throat, I might make a quick ball of blue and infuse it with a word like, you know, wherever I'm feeling in that moment, and then put it in, or I might send it to something that I'm feeling touched or connected to. So whether that's an animal that I've come across, or a place that has come to mind, or someone that has come to mind, if their highest good isn't about receiving that it will go where it needs to go. You know, if you've created it from love and light, it will be received into the wherever with love and light.
Yeah.
And it's just trusting. It's not about having an attachment to whether or not that person received it, felt it. Like bring, just checking, did you receive my ball of light?
And I'll go, what? No. But even apart from that, like, you know, if you're like me, my hands were just vibrating. So there's no greater teacher again than you actually feeling. Here's that word, feeling again, feeling the energy that you are, that you just created. No one did that for you. Martine didn't do it for you. She just guided you on you remembering how to do it for yourself, and you would have received it exactly how you're meant to have received it. And that's perfect, because there's no wrong or right with this at all in any part of this journey. Just trust what you get and learn with it and go with it. And that's that trust and faith path we keep referring back to all the time, and we will, because it's a non-stop journey into it. Thanks, that was good. My fingers were very nice, very bubbly. Okay, well, I feel that might be enough for our little session today. And yeah, as we said, please, if anyone watches, drop us a line, let us know how you feel. We'd love to just be here to help anybody who is requiring assistance, guidance that hopefully we can offer you. And you take it or you leave it, and that's okay with us too. So I will say thanks and goodbye from me.
And I will say thanks and goodbye from me. And don't forget to share any experiences that you had of your ball if you feel you need to as well. We need to receive your comments to know where you are desiring, as Marie put, anything that you would like us to share with you. So, you know, it's always welcome, and it's a safe place. We tend to create very safe bubbles of energy around us. So, you know, everyone who comes into our circle will be of that highlight too.
Yeah. And if you do send a question and you don't wish for us to mention you, we don't. We respect sacredness, confidentiality, but I can tell you your question would be the question of many others, because that's just how it always is. But anyway, on this lovely Sunday afternoon, we'll say goodbye, and we will see you very soon. Okay.
Ciao.
See ya.